Welcome to my guide on all your hunter needs. First and foremost, I am not claiming that I know everything or that I am the best hunter ever. However, I do have over 1,000 hours in this Monster Hunter and over 3,000 in Monster Hunter Freedom Unite 2, along with variable times amongst the other installments of the game. This guide is here to make sure that you have the utmost information to be the most efficient and effective hunter you can be from start to finish. There is a lot of information in this video, so do not be afraid to pause the video or play back to ensure that you understand all of the information that I'm putting out. The first most important thing I need to stress to new players is that there is no such thing as a best weapon. The best weapon is the one that you choose to put the time and effort into mastering. Learning each weapon is extremely easy. However, mastering the weapon and utilizing everything each weapon has to offer is what makes good hunters into A-listers. Use the training room to start practicing the basics of each weapon until you find the one that feels really good to use in your hands. There is no rush. Take your time, experiment with each weapon, look at everything the weapon has to offer. Use the hill towards the backside of the training room. Look at all the options you have while sliding down a hill. The game has a ton of very small hills in which you can exploit for even more options during your encounter. The same thing goes with the wall you can run up behind the main training pole. Use it to see exactly what each weapon can do. Use everything in this room to get the absolute best understanding of your chosen weapon. After you stumble upon the weapon that suits you the most, you just found the best weapon in the game. Now that you've found the best weapon in the game, how do you go about leveling it on your first playthrough? The safe route would be to stay in the Ore tree or the Diablo's tree for really strong raw weapons or their Nergigante weapons. If you're approaching endgame and you're in doubt about a specific weapon, just go Nergigante. It is really hard to go wrong with Nergigante as they're the best well-rounded weapons in the entire game. Now that you have a weapon plan, you need an armor plan. Once again, there's no best armor set or skill in the game. The best skills are the ones that will allow you to survive. There's absolutely no point in building for full attack if your dick is going to be in the dirt constantly, also known as carting. Build for skills you need in order to complete the objective. This also goes back to specific weapon mechanics. Depending on your chosen weapon, your skills will change. It is how you combo these skills with survivability, utility, and damage that will allow you to complete the objective without carting. However, more aggressive builds can make hunts significantly easier as they will provide more flinches, trips, KOs, and ultimately faster kills. In the end, the best tip I can give you is while learning, you should use the necessary skills to survive, and afterwards you can bring out the steroids to start blowing shit up. It's a process. As I said before, take your time, learn the monster, and exploit its weaknesses, and you'll start making your way into the A-listers division in no time. Now, onto item loadouts. Taking time on this once will legit save you so much time in the future. I cannot stress the importance of this enough. We've all had that one friend that finishes a quest and takes an entire 10 minutes to prepare for another. Your item loadout is basically a quick way to select everything you need for a single hunt. Every hunt, for the most part, have the same basic necessities in which we'll use consistently, and as such have already been through the trial and error of figuring out exactly what you need to take into every hunt. First and foremost, if you do not have the charms and talents from the provision manager, we need to acquire those. We will talk about money farming later in the video. Now onto the items you need for your loadouts. First is mega potions. It is very easy to farm and maintain these, so make sure this is always full slotted. If you like running them cheeks, then run 10 potions and 10 more honey to craft more mega potions out in the field. Max potions for full recovery or sometimes lazy healing. Dunk pods for those pesky devil joes and basils. 3 flash pods and 10 flash bugs. 13 flashes total, which is more than enough since we can only flash tempered monsters 3 or 4 times. Life powders for the Saber Hunter Foundation. Legit, those are lifesaver. Antidote powders for your warfare hunters who are poisoned and never come prepared. Pitfalls and shock traps are pretty self-explanatory. You can slot in the extra trap tools, thunder bugs, and nets if you want to disable the monster even more. Now we want demon drugs to hit harder, demon powder to hit even harder than that, might seeds to hit even harder than that, and might pills to hit even harder. Antidote pills, because the regular antidote is a thing of the past. Farcasters, use this as your oh shit button. Don't laugh, but anything to save a card, especially with the random hunters who have not seen this guide. You can choose to bring well done steaks or rations to maintain your stamina. I just use the ones from the box because why not? Add energy drinks to your loadouts if you're a heavy dual blades user or a bow user. Add sonic pods if you're fighting Diablos. And lastly, bombs. I like to say bombs are always useful, but that is not the case. Add and remove the appropriate items you need for different situations and make sure that you save every loadout. If you're fighting elders, then remove your traps. If you're fighting Diablos, add sonic pods, etc, etc. I personally do not use guns, but I do use bows. So in my ammo coating slots, I have all the different coatings to make sure that I'm covered if I do want to go out with a bow. As I said, take your time. The first time you go through and figure out all the items you may need, if you don't want to follow my list, may take some time, but it will be worth it. Now to the radio menu. The radio wheel and the item loadouts work hand in hand. This is not as mandatory as item loadouts, but will definitely make you a more efficient hunter, as it would save you loads of time scrolling between every item that we just placed into our inventory, plus your mantles and plus your cat skills if you're solo or duo. I highly recommend that you take the time with me to put it to good use. You can add your cat skills, whetstone, your capture nets, literally anything you want to these buttons. Next, we have our farm. This is also easier than what people make it to be. As long as you stay on top of your farm, your cultivations will always be on time and you will never really lack resources. The first and most important part of this entire thing is to unlock everything you can for your farm as soon as you can. After you finish that, the best way to think of the fertilizers is early and late game, low ranks and high ranks. You have 3 categories: the name of the resource, the number created, and the time needed to create that number. After every quest, come back to your farm and fertilize for whatever you need. You have 4 fertilizers, so if you choose the wrong one and come back, you can just replace it after your quest, or just add it to the list and keep all your fertilizers running and extend it with soft soil. While on the topic of soft soil, high rank hunters need to make sure they abuse it. That alone is probably the best thing we have at our disposal when it comes to the farm. Next, we need to eat. Eat before you leave the hut every single time. Our winged drakes will sometimes drop us off right in front of the monster we need to kill. So when we leave, we need to be ready. We can make an entire video about foods, but this will be a quick and dirty explanation. Chef's Choice will give you all the necessities, plus 50 HP and plus 50 stamina, along with random status effects and food skills. If you don't use a voucher, you only have a chance to receive the food skills, and sometimes you'll get none. If you don't care for food skills and just farming, just eat for attack large and take a max potion. If you are struggling with a monster or something in particular is giving you issues, then that's when you want to look at the food skills as a primary and status effects and health bonuses as a secondary. We ate and all that, but we are still not ready to hunt quite yet. Next, we need research points. We need these to unlock our camps and mantles, as well as canteen items and faster modes of transportation around maps. As there are many ways to gain research points, I will notify you with this sound to bring your attention to the RP we are currently receiving. We need as much research points as we can get, so in turn, we need to know how to get as much as we can from a single quest. The easiest way to gain a large amount are about bounties. Once you know the monster you're hunting, you can match the monster with the bounties to gain extra research points and armor spears. Large monster capture and large monster hunts are very general occurrences and should always be taken. Just make sure you pay attention to the bounty. If it's asking for a fanged brute or a flying wyvern, refer back to your hunter notes if you don't know what type of monster that is. If you're ever hurting for research points, make sure we do these combined with investigations. We can finally set out, but we still aren't quite ready to hunt a monster yet. The last thing we need to do before we set out is learn about our maps and navigation. First, we have our big map of our current location. This legit has everything on it. Everything you are looking for is here, and you can actually use your scout flies to pinpoint anything in particular you are looking for. If you pay attention to the areas, a lot of resources come in packs. The area I'm in now has a shit ton of antidote herbs. The next area has a lot of poisonous herbs, and so on. There's no point to just run blindly until you find the materials you need. Make a game plan using the map as your lead. Now, onto the mini-map. The big red circle means you are in combat and cannot wing Drake to a camp. The red eye means the monster is enraged and is extremely aggressive. During this time, it will follow you around the map no matter where you go unless you make your way back into the camp. An exclamation mark above the monster means it is aroused but not quite sure by what. The purple question mark is self-explanatory. The yellow eye means the monster has noticed you and you are now engaged in battle with it. The skull means the monster is below 30% HP and is capturable. The little green alligator means the monster is exhausted and will have severe performance issues. Next is the monster's lifeline, or EKG. These go hand in hand with a few things we just mentioned. As a general rule of thumb, the EKG shows the overall health of a monster. Once we know that, we can apply more to it. Upon starting a fresh fight, the EKG will be normal. As the fight pursues and the monster spazzes out, so will the EKG. You can tell this by the EKG going orange and then back to blue. Don't put too much trust in the EKG, because even when a monster is flatlining and near death, they can enrage and push your shit in. This is a tool to be aware of, but not to rely on. Now we can talk about gathering in the world. This will net you a very large amount of resources that you are not already cultivating in your farm. This is my personal gathering build that gives me everything I need when it comes to farming materials out in the field. You do not have to do this by any means, but it is worth it to go out of your way to make a set that will increase your efficiency for gathering. This game does not punish you for hoarding. Go out and take literally everything, especially for new players. It will only benefit you in the future. One of the most important resources to gather is dung. The Wildspire Waste monsters in particular seems to drop a ton of it. The monsters in question are Pink Raytheon, Anjanath, and Bara. All three of those monsters drop an awful lot of shit. Grab your ghillie mantle and follow these monsters for a while and you will literally be rolling in shit. A quick tip about ancient potions and the things you need to craft them are Kelby horns. Take a great sword and you can kick them for 100% horn drop rate. Your capture net works as well, but it takes a bit too long for me. Fishing is something that I'm guilty of not doing too much, but there are some really nice benefits that come from it, and you need to do it at some point to upgrade your canteen even further. The most important part about fishing for me are the wet fish. Those things are insane. It's basically a free level 3 speed sharpening skill with a ton of resets. If you find yourself loving this as much as I do, then it may be worth it to add it to your radio wheel and item loadouts. There is no shortage of personal customization in the way that you play the game, so don't hold back. You can also use a capture net to capture a few fish at once, but by doing so, the fish will relocate as best they can. Now, if you're farming the same investigation over and over, don't sleep on the materials that you run past to get to the monster. Monster spawns in the same spot every time, as well as all the materials you pass to get to him. It's also why you want to leave at least 3 or 4 slots left open in your item loadouts. This is just a quick way to grab a little more resources without actually going to look for it. In the end, you should have everything you need without running short on supplies, especially if you have a gathering set as I do and you are upkeeping your farm between quests. Another very strong recommendation comes to those who are falling behind on their supplies. You do not have to use your own supplies for every single quest. The blue box comes with rations and first aids alone. Taking the trap tools every time is only going to save you more and more money, as you cannot craft those. Now we get to the juicy part, attack stacking, or sometimes called doping. This is also going to be a quick and dirty, but everything you need is here. Demon Drug raises your attack by 5 until faint. Mega Demon Drug raises your attack by 7 until faint. Next, you have Demon Powder. This will not only increase your attack, but your allies' attack by 10, and it lasts for 3 minutes. After that, we have our might seeds, which further increases our attack by another 10 for another 3 minutes. These all stack, and the order in which you use them does not matter. Confusion arrives with the might pills. Might pills increase attack by 25 but only last for 20 seconds. The catch is you will lose the effect of your might seed afterwards. So to fix this, after the pill wears off the 20 seconds, all you have to do is pop another seed. Don't make it harder than what it needs to be. If you want to know more specifics, there are a ton of resources online, but I guarantee you, this is all the information you will actually need. Now we can talk about Zenny farming. Ideally, you want to farm the triple threat event quest with your bandit mantle. However, if that event isn't up, then the next best thing is to take your bandit mantle to a great Jagras. The most efficient weapons for this are the heavy bowguns, Wyvern Fire, and dual blades. I'd imagine light bowgun with some type of rapid fire rounds would also be a good choice. Don't forget the items marked as trade-in items. They have no purpose other than to be sold, as well as if you have a significant amount of overflow of a specific item, such as Kolf Terath materials. Remember the charms and talons that we needed before. You need those from Basil. As a general tip, when fighting Basil, I recommend that you do not take melee weapons. Using a melee weapon against Basil requires a lot of awareness and a lot of patience that you probably won't have until you know every little window Basil will show. If you don't have enough armor upgrades, then one misstep will literally kill you. I used a bow and CC'd him to death. If you're still in more need of help after that, try firing an SOS flare and do the same thing again. Hopefully the hunters that join you will capitalize on the openings you create and you'll be well on your way to killing Basil easily. Next on the list is using the environment to your advantage. Not using the environment will not harm you in any way, but using it will prove more useful than what hunters take it for. Just looking up will get you from place to place faster. This comes with general awareness of the area. Simply being aware will save you if you happen to forget something before coming onto a quest. Capcom is trying their hardest to set up new players for success, so make sure you use it. You can use water moss to legit wipe the mud off of Baroth, which will result in faster kills depending on your weapon type and a shit ton of research points. Using the environment will create so many openings, it's actually insane. Now the next thing I want to speak on is team play and hunter etiquette online. When a monster is sleeping, the hardest hitting weapon to wake it up is going to be a greatsword, not heavy bowgun and not charge blade. Greatsword. Communicate with them to see if they have the confidence to land the hit they need to do a proper wake up. If there's no communication between the team and worst comes to worst, you'll have a bad wake up. It happens. Even with good communication, bad execution is still a common occurrence. The next thing I want to speak on is heavy bowgunners and their clusters. Your clusters are not going to do more damage than 3 melee users on a vulnerable monster. If it is a strategy your team is running, then go nuts. But if you're in solo play and you're playing with random hunters, it's probably best just to avoid using clusters altogether, or you're just going to make people dislike you. As time goes on, the monster hunting community will grow more and more compact, which means people are going to remember you. I don't think I have to say more on that subject. The next topic is barrel bombs. Just throwing barrel bombs is not the right thing to do, same as clusters. It's an overall loss of DPS if you blow your melee users away from the monster. As you probably guessed by now, I primarily use melee weapons, and these are the things that make me go nuts when I play with new players. Don't be greedy for damage only you put out. In multiplayer, it becomes a team game, so be considerate. On the topic of bombs, we need to clarify how it works. Prepare for a lot of numbers, but I will try my best to keep it mainstream as I can. The target is going to be the training pole. Large barrel bombs does 80 damage. Mega barrel bombs does 150 damage. This is both on a non-sleeping target and without bombardier. Now, my large barrel bombs does 104 damage and my mega barrel bomb 195 damage. Keep in mind that these numbers are still on a non-sleeping target. That's whether you forced it to sleep or the monster is nearly dead and has limped its way to sleep. The most important part about the wake up damage is that it is only a 2x multiplier for the initial hit. That means only one of your bombs will do the double damage even if you place 8 around the monster. That means your party needs to choose who has the biggest single hit weapon, and as I said before, that is 100% going to be your greatsword. Then the next question is, will it deal more damage than your bombs with the 2 times multiplier upon wake up? So in this case, our greatsword user needs to hit harder than our mega barrel bomb, which will do 390 damage if it is the initial hit. Coordinate with your team for maximizing the wake up hit and your bomb damage. The bombs can have some pretty crazy hitboxes if you place them too close to the monster or inside of it. The last thing I want to touch on is weapon priorities and positioning. If we go back to our hunter notes, you can see these icons: the greatsword, the hammer, and the bullets. These represent cutting, impact, and ammo effectiveness. As a hammer user, you are going to want to be on the monster's head 100% of the time. If you are a hunting horn user, you are also going to be on the head 100% of the time. You can work together to figure out the angles so you won't stagger each other. The same thing goes for slicing weapons. If you can't reach the tail where the longsword excels, then go for the legs, cause a trip, and make your way back to the tail. Same thing goes for hammer. If you can't consecutively hit the head, or if you can't get to the head at all, go for the legs, get the trip, and go back to the head. If everyone is all going for the head of a monster when it falls, it is likely going to be a stagger fest. This includes your light bow guns and your bows shooting the melee users in the back. In this short clip, our positioning was excellent until I misstepped and got uppercutted by my buddy for it. It is not the end of the world if you cannot get good positioning. However, if you're knowledgeable of your positioning along with your fellow hunters, it will further propel you into becoming an A-lister. We are finally back from our hunt, and there's still a couple things we need to do before we go back out. The first thing is to go back to your farm and add more fertilizer. Make sure you check in with the chief ecologist to update your research point progress on your monsters. And lastly, we talk about the elder melder. The melder is mostly used for the overflow of decorations, as well as obtaining the gems you need from certain monsters. Keep in mind, if you are rerolling your decorations, you are funding that with your research points. Other than that, she is really good for getting the items that you may be slacking on. For me, it's screamer pots, but for my buddy, he uses it for mega demon drugs. So use her however you see fit to stay on top of your game for your materials. Keep in mind that when you meld something for 104 points and all you need is 4 points, if you use a decoration worth 20 points for those 4 points, then you just wasted 16 points that you do not get back. After that, upgrade your armor, upgrade your weapons, restock, reset, eat, and you're ready to go to the next hunt. I do hope this guide has proved useful to someone out there, as it did take a lot of time and effort to put together. And as always, good luck and happy hunting.